All right, so check it. I just reacted to Sabaton Night Witches, the animated story video. Great. Love the song. Love the little bits and pieces of the story that I got, which creates the think pieces in my head that I gave at the end of the video. And now we're moving on to Night Witches, female Soviet pilots, Sabaton history, episode 50. So this is the Sabaton history of the Night Witches. Let's rock.
When you think of the soldiers fighting the Second World War, you probably think of men with machine guns.
However, in our song Night Witches, we're singing about badass women in bomber planes.
Y'all know I have to pause it to try to break up the audio so that they don't claim it. Is this actual footage? Yeah, I know how I get about actual footage. This actual footage of these planes that were made, what they say, of wood and like, I don't know, sandpaper or some shit they said it was made of. Explosive violence, Russian nighttime. This is crazy.
The large-scale industrialization of the Soviet Union in the late 1920s and 1930s opened up the country's economy for women in the workplace, and there was indeed no job for which a woman could not apply. Soviet propaganda encouraged them to join the workforce and steer the great machines of modernization, and the most fantastic symbol of that particular age of machines was the airplane. Many were inspired by Soviet heroine Marina Raskova, who set world records for long-distance flights, showing what pilots and planes from the Soviet Union could achieve. Newly emerging and quite popular flying clubs were also a chance for many women to escape the monotony, or the poverty, of their homes and learn how to become an aircraft mechanic or even a pilot themselves.
That's crazy.
Fast forward to the summer of 1941. Weeks after the German invasion, hundreds of thousands of Soviet women flocked to the colors, enlisting as nurses, signalers, or anti-aircraft gunners.
Wow.
The experienced female pilots of the flying club served as instructors and advisors for male recruits, but were not allowed themselves to fly into combat. The argument was that there were enough male pilots available. Marina Raskova, however, was determined to make a difference. With her influence in Moscow's political circles as a hero of the Soviet Union, she appealed to Stalin himself and got permission to create 3 all-female flying units. The 586 Fighter Regiment.
The balls. The balls it takes to go up to the big dog and say, bruh, trust me, man. Trust me. I know we can do this. I know we can. And if we can't, so what? Y'all point is proven. Women shouldn't fly. Yada, yada, yada. But I'm telling you we can do this. That's courage on courage. I wonder if that took more courage than actually taking off and actually going into battle. I wonder.
To create 3 all-female flying units. The 586 Fighter Regiment, the 587 Heavy Bomber Regiment, and the 588 Night Bomber Regiment.
Okay.
Raskova was a natural leader, and her call for volunteers was soon answered by hundreds of young women from all over the Soviet Union hoping to break into the ranks of elite female pilots. By mid-October, as confusion and chaos swept Moscow in the face of the rapid German advance, Raskova had set up her training camp at the large aerodrome in the city of Engels on the Volga River. There, the women of the 3 regiments were to be trained with planes, engines, armaments, and aeronautical studies and military drills, while the college-educated women were trained as navigators. Those with factory or armory experience would work as mechanics. Naturally, all volunteers wanted to become famous fighter pilots themselves, but only the most talented and experienced pilots were accepted into the fighter regiment. They needed lightning-quick reactions and the ability to remain calm in battle. The professional pilots with many hours of experience were put into the heavy bomber regiment, led by Raskova herself. Those with less experience.
Look at him, bruh. Look at him. It's one thing to not learn about. It's one thing to not learn about a lot of history that took place during these world wars, but it's just more common that it's the men stories that we don't hear. Like, I never knew this existed. I never knew women were doing this. You know, I'm in America. I don't know if I feel like the 588 should have been taught to me. No matter if they're from Russia, doesn't matter. I feel like this is a part of history that I should have known. Because this, like, look at this picture, like the bravery in each one of these women, that shit is real. And it's just as strong and as durable as the men's bravery. I'm sorry, I added an S on it. But yeah, I just feel like I feel like I'm learning all over again. God damn.
Into the heavy bomber regiment, led by Raskova herself. Those with less experience put into the night bomber regiment. But those women may have needed the greatest courage of them all.
Who's getting this footage from above? That's what I want to know. Oh, they probably wired up some cameras to the actual planes.
The night bombers were to fly the Polikarpov U-2, a flimsy biplane compared to then modern dive bombers. It had been...
Wait a minute. You telling me that's how the dive bombers that the men were flying looked compared to what the women... I would have thought they were similar in appearance, not that much different. This is what the women were flying, is what you're telling me. And this is what the men were flying.
A flimsy biplane compared to then modern dive.
Come on, man. Even after all those successful missions, they never upgraded the women to these planes? Let me know, man.
Bombers. It had been designed and manufactured since the late 1920s and was used most often as a training plane. It had two cockpits, one for the student and one for the instructor. It was a small and slow aircraft made from lightweight plywood and percale, which was finely woven fabric made out of cotton. It was cheap to manufacture, unimpressive, and outdated.
I said sandpaper. I mean, cotton, wood and cotton. A wood and cotton plane is what you're telling me that these women did this with. That's what y'all trying to tell me. That's what he's trying to tell me. Unreal.
Lightweight plywood and percale, which was finely woven fabric made out of cotton. It was cheap to manufacture, unimpressive, and outdated, but nonetheless, a reliable workhorse for transporting the wounded, dropping supplies, or reconnaissance flights. The Soviets nicknamed it the crop duster, or the duck, while to the Germans, it was to be known as the sewing machine or the plywood Russ, since it was totally defenseless and too slow to outrun any of the German fighter planes. It could only operate in the safety of night. In fact, though, even small arms fire could bring it down fairly easily. But the overall situation was so bleak that even those little planes became symbols of hope and resistance. Over time, the women began to appreciate the simplicity of the crop duster, especially since the women of the heavy bomber regiment had to fly the Su-2, which was nicknamed the Bitch because of how difficult it was to master.
Damn.
But despite Soviet theoretical ideology of equality between the sexes, Russian machismo was pretty merciless, wearing boots, tunics, and greatcoats way too large for them since they were designed for men.
I always think military fashion is always so dope. These hats here, okay, so there was a moment in time where these hats became popular in black culture and just black fashion, urban fashion, and we called them the Govertroffs. We don't know, we just knew that name matched the hat. We didn't know, we didn't know. We just but these were called the Govertroff. I'm rocking my Govertroff today. I had an orange one, I had a black one, and we called them the Govertroffs. I don't know nothing about Govertroffs. I don't know anything. That's just what we coined it. And I just always loved military fashion, and seeing these women rocking the Govertroffs. I hope I'm not disrespecting anybody when I say that. God, I hope I'm not. But they just so fly to me, man. Like the big collars, it's just so fly to me.
Wearing boots, tunics, and greatcoats way too large for them since they were designed for men, the women were constantly mocked and teased by their male counterparts for their lack of femininity. But this only hardened their determination, since to them, a soldier was a soldier. Raskova ordered the women to crop their hair, and the battalion's commissar forbade anything she saw as girl talk and prohibited any sort of flirtatious behavior. By late May 1942, they were finally equipped with enough U-2 aircraft to prepare for combat. By summer, they left the aerodrome for the Southwestern Front to meet the German advance on Stalingrad and the Caucasus. As Axis forces were advancing on Rostov, Raskova's night bombers hit the German ammunition and fuel dumps, the vehicles, and the ground troops. Now, it was the navigator's job to find the target and close in on enemy lines. Then the pilot would turn off the engine and silently glide through the night. The first planes would throw down flares to illuminate the targets, and the loads would be dropped. Then they would turn on their engines and escape before the Germans could fight back. The U-2s were converted to bombers by simple, at first improvised attachments. A bomb load of up to 300 kilos was slung under the wings.
Wait. Let me take that back. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Let me make sure I heard this right.
Loads would be dropped. The first planes would throw down flares to illuminate the targets, and the loads would be dropped. Then they would turn on their engines and escape before the Germans could.
Okay, I don't know shit about planes, but just help me understand this. When they start the engines on the ground, they have to hand crank them. How did they start the engines in the sky when they were just gliding? Somebody who's a pilot, let me know. Or if you just know this knowledge, let me know.
And the loads would be dropped. Then they would turn on their engines and escape before the Germans could fight back. The U-2s were converted to bombers by simple, at first improvised attacks.
Okay, so these bombs that they're putting on this plane, these planes weren't made to to equip these bombs. Like, they just found a way to attach bombs to a plane. Is that what he just told me? Is that what he just said? It sounds like that's what he just said.
The U-2s were converted to bombers by simple, at first improvised attachments.
Right.
A bomb load of up to 300 kilos was slung under the wings. Okay, this was not enough to inflict a lot of damage, but that wasn't the main purpose of the night bombers. They were to constantly harass the enemy, to deprive them of sleep and wear them down, to grant them no rest periods. And for that, the Germans hated them. After learning that the night bombers were usually piloted by women, they would give them their famous nickname, the Nachthexen, the night witches. Every morning, the women came back with red faces and bloodshot eyes. They rebuilt their lives around their nocturnal life, having dinner in the morning and going straight to bed. They were constantly tired and hungry, but they were sure proud of showing the Soviet Union that women could fly as well as any man. And with every successful mission, they earned more respect from the male pilots and officers. But that would not protect them from the constant danger they faced. They had no parachutes, since Soviet high command figured that in case of engine failure, the planes could simply glide back to Earth. This totally disregarded the fact that the percale cotton fabric and plywood frame burned like crazy, and if that ever happened, it was likely that both pilot and navigator burned to death. But to Soviet high command, that was still preferable to being captured alive by the Germans. In fact, those who were shot down or crashed behind enemy lines were expected to fight to the death, as capture was dishonorable to any Soviet soldier and would leave a stigma for the rest of their lives. Even pilots who were shot down behind the lines but hid and made it safely back to their own lines were interrogated and often condemned to death by the commissars. On January 4th, 1943, Roskova died in an accident on her way to the Stalingrad front. But the 588 was determined to live by her ideals. And as one pilot wrote, it was a time for bombing and bombing.
Wood and paper, man. Shouts out to the 588 that stood 10 toes on business. These women stood 10 toes on business.
The Soviet counterattack prompted the hasty withdrawal of the Germans from the Caucasus and gave the Night Witches more than enough opportunities to harass and attack the retreating troops. From the steppes near Stalingrad to the high mountains of the Caucasus, the praise for the Night Witches grew. The freezing winter nights through which they flew at high altitudes with open cockpits did not discourage the women from fulfilling their missions. In fact, only once were they forced to remain grounded for a time. On the night of July 31st, 1943, during the German counteroffensive on the Taman Peninsula in Novorossiysk, the Night Witches approached the German positions and noticed that the anti-aircraft batteries were strangely silent. Suddenly, flares lit up the sky. It was a German night fighter attack, and in moments, U-2 planes were falling out of the skies, burning to the ground. The survivors broke off, scattering back into the darkness. Such high casualties in one night were a shock to the regiment, but one that didn't last long. The war that eventually turned against the German invaders brought the witches further to the west, to the Kuban, to the Crimea, to Belarus, to Poland, and eventually Germany itself. Sometimes they made up to a dozen sorties a night, with only a few minutes of breaks in between.
So I'm guessing sorties is a mission. So you telling me these women went on 23,000 missions? Huh? Because it doesn't sound crazy when you say 12 missions a day. That don't sound crazy. But 12 a day for a year and some changes. Or however long it was. That's when it start like, wait, 23. And again, I'm guessing sorties is missions.
Sometimes they made up to a dozen sorties a night, with only a few minutes of breaks in between. There are many stories of those young women who came from many different backgrounds and who did share their own personal tales of heroism, tragedy, and idealism. We were young and fearless. The fear came later, one of the survivors would recall. Heroic achievements and accomplishments led to more heroes of the Soviet Union than any other Soviet bomber regiment, 23 by the end of the war, with usually at least 800 sorties made. After the war, and after the regiment was disbanded, their commissar, Yevdokia Rachkevich, took it upon herself to personally search for the crash sites of every last one of her lost flyers to provide an accurate history of the regiment and the women that served and fought with it.
Man. Look at that crowd. got to get to one of these concerts, man. I got to get to one of them. I got to just experience it in real life, even if it's just one time. I gotta go. I gotta find my boys, man. I gotta do this.
Okay, badass women in bomber planes. That
Yes.
was a really good description, right?
Facts.
How did you guys decide to choose this?
Actually, when we started doing research for Heroes, this was one of the first that came up for us. Yeah. That's been in our what do you call it? Secret Sabaton archive for a while.
All right.
And we just thought it was a perfect way to open the album as well.
Yeah.
We have a tradition of doing something surprising for the first song, and I think that massive opening was a perfect way to start off the album.
Yeah, and then the tempo change into the
Oh
chorus.
yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, and we did something different there also with the chorus being half beat compared to the rest of the song, and which is something I
peeped that.
really hate.
I peeped
But if you hate it, why
I
did
didn't
you
hate it.
allow it?
I didn't hate it, but I peeped it. I didn't hate it, but I peeped it.
And which is something I really hate.
But if you hate it, why did you allow it to happen in this instance?
It's the only time I actually thought it worked.
Yeah?
We wanted that.
Whose suggestion was it? Who said, "Hey, come on, let's do this"? And you said,
Oh, I did that to myself.
"Oh, okay."
So-
Bruh.
But no, I remember so clearly when we were doing
Bruh.
the PR for this album. It's a couple of years ago now, but I was doing an interview and I was in the final stages of doing something else. I was in the studio. Interviewer was a bit nervous, I
Okay.
should say, and not used to doing interviews. And we had I think a regular 30-minute interview. I was on the phone. He asked me to tell something. Well, you have a lot of stories. Could you tell me something from the album,
Okay.
story-wise? And I started, I can make an example out of the first song. And I started telling the story of the Night Witches.
Okay.
And I got a little bit carried away, because
yeah.
I was proud of the song and the story. So I, got carried away. And I probably spoke for about 8 minutes about only that song and the story about it. When I was finished, it got silent. And then I hear, okay. And the next song?
Oh man. Oh gosh. Oh, that's brilliant. No.
It reminds me stories like that because you guys informed me that due to the content of their music, they have to run these songs by their label, but the label is kind of like the government. You know what I mean? It's like when the soldiers and everyone goes off to fight and they accomplish these incredible feats and claim these victories that took magic to happen, and then they come back home and the government's like, okay, but no, let's not. No, I'm not interested in that. It's kind of like that. Like he's like, I'm telling y'all, this shit one of the ones. It's so one of the ones. I had the idea to do some shit that I hate doing on the song. So that's how I know it's one of the ones, because I did something I don't like and it came out beautiful. It worked. And the label was just like, all right, next song, whatever. Next song. That's crazy. That's crazy. And now you got people from around the world reacting to the song. What? I mean, does it get, how much bigger do you need it to get? But, of course, they didn't know that back then.
Oh man. Oh gosh. Oh, that's brilliant. So, now, what was the reception for Night Witches? I mean, was this because this is not something that's familiar to people?
No. The story in itself is fantastic, no matter if it would have been men or women.
Yeah.
The fact that it is women, it's a extra nice bonus, I think.
Yeah.
And
It's very Soviet Union too.
yes, and it's still a part of our live set, very popular with the fans and us as well.
Yeah.
I think we have some of the coolest pyro and video stuff going on that song
Absolutely.
as well. So I actually really enjoy playing that because we all I guess go off stage as the live intro for that song starts, and I sing the intro off stage, and I just get running in on the first boot.
Damn, I feel like they might claim this part. They did in the last history, so they might do it on this one. It's playing in the background, but it's playing loud enough for them to claim it.
Boom of the verse.
Bro, a whole tank on stage, crazy. My boy just ran out in the snow camo going nuts.
But I have a very important question that I'm pretty certain everybody, not only everybody who watches Sabaton history, but everybody who's ever seen Sabaton or listened to Sabaton wants to know. Now, night witches, right? They to avoid any outward appearances of too much femininity and stuff because of problems with the male soldiers and stuff. They all cut their hair really short. They all crop their hair, right? One, do you think any of them had your hairstyle?
I certainly hope not.
And two, do we have any pictures of you when you were a kid with like the same? Did you have the same like?
I was born like this.
All right, Joachim. Well, thank you very much for this today.
Thank you very much.
I always love talking to you about these songs. All right. Well, we'll see you next time
Thank you all.
on Sabaton History.
Let me see. Hold on, y'all.
All right, everyone, you know the drill. You click, 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 click. Get some subscriptions, check out Indy's other channels, become a Patreon. That's it. Get the fuck out of here.
All right, I'm out. Damn, I'm out. I'm out. Just gotta make sure I ain't missing nothing. What a great story, y'all. Thank for the recommendation. Thank you for the recommendation. Great story. Unbelievable. The women having that much courage, man, and just doing whatever they got to do, and to think a part of their motivation was to prove to men that we can do this just as well, if not better, than you all. I respect that. Salute to those pilots and those air women. Incredible story. This is y'all gonna get tired of me saying it, but this shit is so dope. This shit is so dope to me, man. I'm out. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Again, I got enough recommendations, but I know y'all gonna damn, there go that shadow. Y'all gonna keep letting me know what I need to do. I'm out, y'all. Peace.